Very good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for joining us today. We're pleased to have all of you with us. I'm Anton Thalan, the Chief Evangelist for Luminary Learning Solutions, and I will be the voice of the webinar this afternoon. Welcome to Season 2 of Reset and Go, aptly named Revive and Grow, which is a part of our unique Saturdays for learning with Luminary. Delivering 38 segments of pure learning during the series, preparing us to get our learnings on. In today's segment of Revive and Grow, we are discussing the basic lean principles to help productivity, a conversational exchange of experiences for you to grasp the best practices, alter perceptions, and implement. Joining us today are our subject matter experts, Rowena Arquillano, the Senior Chief Specialist and Senior Deputy General Manager for Nidec Motor Corporation, Philippines. She is the Business Process Improvement Lean and Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt. With over 20 years of experience in factory industrial engineering, capacity planning, business development, business process reengineering, robotics process automation management, process improvement, and quality management systems. Joining her as the second guest this afternoon is Siddharth Vigneshwara, General Manager, Blue Planet Group, Bangladesh. Siddhartha comes from a strong apparel manufacturing background with practical knowledge in application of lean manufacturing principles. Having started his career under the visionary leadership of MAS Holdings, Siddhartha has a track record of working for some of the most prominent names in the apparel industry, such as Brandix, Dewhurst, Bangladesh, and Epic Group, Vietnam. Welcome, Rowena. Welcome, Siddharth. And facilitating the conversation this afternoon is Samantha Karandagoda, who is a trainer with Luminary Learning Solutions. Over to them now, what promises to be an hour of riveting conversation. Sam?
Thank you, Anton. Welcome all of you to the Luminary webinar on Basic Lean Principles for Productivity. It's a great pleasure to host this webinar, especially with two of the esteemed subject matter specialists who will be sharing with you some of the most valuable insights about how the concept of lean can be used in your day-to-day life at work, and also, of course, in your personal life. So welcome, Rowena, and welcome, Siddharth.
Hi,
Hi, thank you, Sam.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you for having us here.
It's our pleasure completely. All right, so just to set the context, I understand that the lean concept had been talked about in almost every industry. And over the last few years, it had become a kind of a buzzword, while it had really been there for more than several decades. So with this context, I just want to explore what actually is lean. So going beyond theory, to be honest. Rowena?
Okay, so what is lean? Lean is actually, first, it's a mindset. When it comes to a process, lean is a process without wasteful resources. So when you say lean, you have to say that within your process, everything that you do must translate into productivity, to high productivity. So that's lean. But most of all, you have to understand the mindset of a lean. You know, you have to know whether in your process, what is the bottleneck, and then what is the most important to your customer. Because having to set a lot of different processes, you might get confused of what's really important to your customer. So when you say lean, it means that you're giving them the optimal productivity. Your process is within the expectation of your I mean, your quality and the process is within the expectation of your customer. But you also need to understand who are your customer. You have your internal customer and your external customer. So basically, lean is a mindset that you must understand that within your process, you have to make sure that everything, there's no such thing as a waste of resources. That's generally what lean for me is. Yeah.
Thank you, Rowena. In fact, it's quite interesting that we talked about the customer here as well, whereas a lot of people tend to think, oh, lean, it's about lean manufacturing. Oh, we don't see the customer at all. Like our job is pack and send, right? So am I right if I say, although the statement is a cliche statement, customer is still the king, even when it comes to lean?
Yes, yes. So, well, of course, inside our processes, there is as a success. I mean, a success measure that you need to define within your organization, and all of that. Like for example, quality. How do you define your quality in within your organization? You have to define it within the perspective of your customer, but at the same time, you also have your internal customer, which is your stakeholder or the management. In terms of quality, you cannot spend so much money satisfying the customer, right? You're trying to put up a lot of inspection or a lot of processes to make sure that the quality level will be 100% based on the customer requirement. But what is the cost of having that kind of a process in your organization? Definitely will you will have to add more people, might have to add more equipment. So it might hurt the bottom line of the company. So that's where the when you say customer satisfaction, you also need to balance it with your internal customer, which is the business itself, your people, how hard it is to please the customer. So that's where the negotiation also is important, where you need to negotiate with your customer that this is the quality level that we have agreed, so that you can design your process based on that commitment. And at the same time, this is where lean is important, that you know that where is the bottleneck of this process, and that's where I should focus my improvement in terms of a lead time. So if your commitment is delivery, let's say you want to deliver the goods within 24 hours, so you have to go back to your process. Are you capable of delivering 24 hours or not? And if you're not, then you have to understand why, and why is it taking more than 24 hours. So that's where
Yeah.
you start with the lean project.
Super. Thank you, Rowena and Siddharth. So now we got to know what is lean. I want to ask you, what is not lean and what are the common misconceptions around that?
Right. So what is not lean indirectly answers what is lean as well. So rather than putting into the definitions that you read on books, I would say my interpretation is it's common sense. Common sense in your workplace is what I feel lean. So that means whatever the things that you do which doesn't make sense if you think through are not lean. So it's a simple way of putting in a word. So by the way, I'm not a lean guru. I'm a person who has been. I was fortunate enough to be in a place where, at the beginning of my career, where that place started implementing lean. So in terms of that, I was really fortunate to start in that place. So misconceptions is, that's everything that we associate with, we can say misconceptions until you get into the nitty-gritties. So the previous question that you asked regarding the customer, so I'll relate to that as well a little bit. lean has, a huge area, a lot of books, a lot of people have written about it, a lot of companies have done work. There are not like in early 2000, those years. Now we have a lot of people in the industry who knows about lean, who are capable enough to go into organizations and do things. So there is a lot of material available, but you don't need to try to learn everything. That might be sometimes overwhelming. So if you look at the basics of the lean, that will give you a sense of what is the misconception. So if you take the customer, I'll just explain that part a little bit. As you know, that lean has some rules and principles. So me personally, I don't look at everything, but the 4 rules and 5 principles, it has embedded on my lifestyle with my work. So wherever I go, whatever I see, that's where I relate it to, whether these processes are aligned or capable enough to cater the requirements of being a lean process. So one of the principles says, define the value in terms of from the point of customer angle. So you know what is value, and that's where the customer becomes very important in lean. So when the discussion goes through, I will touch more on those things, the principles and 4 rules, which is personally more, I got beneficial for me. So if you know that basics, you will you will get to know what are the misconceptions, with your journey.
Thank you, Siddharth. It was a great idea that you brought in, actually. Not only lean, probably like everything around us is now overcomplicated with an overwhelming amount of information. And we have to identify the most fundamentals that will result in most of the outcomes, right? So brilliant point, Siddharth. Thank you very much on that. And so I'm moving to Rowena now. Since we know the general context about lean and what it is not, I'm just curious about this overall concept called productivity that we are talking about. So can we really measure whether we have made an improvement in our productivity, and how are you going to find that out?
Okay, so that's very interesting because honestly speaking, every improvement within the company or in an organization, the ultimate goal should always be an increase in productivity. So if you're doing something that won't really impact the productivity, then that's actually a cost or a waste of time and effort. So using lean methodology or the lean thinking approach to improve the productivity, you also need first to understand if you already have measured your current level of productivity and what are the existing measures that you have. Like, for example, do you measure your manpower resource productivity? How about the equipments or the investment that you have? What is the current level of productivity they're doing right now? Your performance, your productivity performance, or the business performance. So that's very, very important for you to really see or understand whether if your lean endeavor is really working for your company or not, because there's no way for you to say that lean improvement is successful if you don't really have way to measure your productivity. So once you have your productivity metrics or indices or in performance indicator, let's say efficiency. If you wanted to improve productivity, you have to make sure that you have measure your efficiency. So in a process, like for example, you have this productivity on a monthly basis, you measure productivity through manpower efficiency. Okay, so what is the agreed efficiency within your organization? Like, let's say you set a 95% efficiency monthly or more. So in some other industry, I think 90 or 85 to 90% efficiency is acceptable. But what is your actual performance? If it's beyond that, then maybe there's really a problem. That's where you need to really find out and deploy some Lean Six Sigma or Six Sigma project for you to address those areas or problematic areas. So how do you do that? You can use some value stream mapping and understand where is your bottleneck, why can't you achieve that, what's causing too much use of the manpower, but this is the output is just not as much as you wanted. So in a same with in the service industry, you're not producing a product. So what is your productivity measure? Is it the volume of calls or transactions? So what is your handling time in every transaction? Do you think have you done some benchmarking or have you done some study that this is the ideal or the standard handling time? But if you don't have also the standard, then that's the problem. Of course, you have to set the standard first and then measure your own productivity or efficiency based from that standard. Then if you're not meeting the standard, then again, you have to deploy another lean project so that for you to understand. So most of the lean projects are evolving in a lead time or waiting time or inventory. Let's say you're in a manufacturing. What is inventory? Of course, it's very easy to know. And while in the service industry, what is inventory? Of course, sometimes it's too much manpower, too much resources, or some underutilized asset. So those are the things that you have to make sure that you know what is the measurement of your productivity. And then when you have that, you have to really understand what is your current performance. And then from there, you would know what do you want? Where do you want to go? From this current performance, then what do you want? What do you need? What does the business need? Then that's where your lean approach or lean project has to focus in.
Thank you, Rowena. Yes, so I noticed that you mentioned you do lean, and at one point of time you need Six Sigma also, right? So I will come back to that later on in our discussion. Now I want to ask Siddharth about something that I found interesting was that you mentioned you had the opportunity or the blessing that you were there in an organization when lean culture was getting started, right? So when all this is getting started, what kind of organizational environment is needed to make this working right?
Right. Now, one of the misconception about lean is it's people think it's about process improvement only, but the another couple of layers to that are people and leadership. So the focus on the people, how do you develop them? How do you make part of it? How do you give that trust? These are a big subject that we need to talk about. On the other hand, it can be people, it can be process. These two things depends on the leadership, but the leadership that we give to the organization. So at that particular point, as I mentioned when I started my career, probably I had the best leadership. Honestly, I feel I'm lucky that to have that, because I was a beginner at that stage. Like I just came from industrial training to I got my job the first year, and we tend to think whatever we do is right. Why the hell you want to change it? So I'm the same. I'm not a different person. So, but they made things happen, and they made us realize This is going to help your work easier practically. So basically, we were working on a double shift factory. Now these days this might not be a common thing, but those days it was a very common thing that whether you have your own WIP. Rowena, this might sound crazy to you, but that's how we worked. We start work at 6 o'clock, 2 o'clock we finish the first shift, second shift starts to finish at 10. So when it's same machinery, same layout, people change. So the WIP, work in progress, will be first shift people will remove and they will keep it in their lockers, and the other shift people have their own set of lockers. They will bring their own stuff and will. So, but you understand, custom order is one order. So basically, we divide it into 2 orders and we manage it. When the delivery day comes, you depend on 2 people at 2 different shifts to finish the style, which is crazy. And we were so happy to do that, because like chaos management is something that people like. So one fine day when we came in, I was in the evening shift. So we usually, I was I start work at 2 o'clock. I came in by 1:30. The lockers were gone. So we asked, where is our WIP? We gave it to the other shift. Whatever they stitch, they will get up and go. You continue that. And first, let's say 1 or 2 weeks, it was again chaos, because they leave. There is no trust between people. So the first shift people, they want to perform well. They want to hit highest efficiency. So whatever that might be the damage pieces, they might keep in the module. So the second shift needs to handle that. Same thing happens with the next shift. So because of the time constraint, I will just not go into much details of that. It's a nightmare. So suddenly that this change happened, and we have to support the other shift for us to survive. So mutual trust was forced, and suddenly, after 2-3 weeks, it becomes a norm, and that factory is still working the same way. And after that, I think a lot of factories started with double shifts. I'm here in Bangladesh to start a new factory. So Bangladesh, you don't get double shift factories like in Sri Lanka. Here, but you get massive factories. 1,000 machine or 1,500 machine is a big factory, considered to be a big factory in Sri Lanka. Here, it goes up to 5,000, 10,000, some 20,000 machine factories. Massive, you get 6-7 floors of machine factory space. So initially, this was planned to be a general shift with 1,200 machines, people. Now we have decided, okay, we'll go for double shift. But in Bangladesh, only one MS factory is doing that, and we decided to do that. We'll do it from the beginning, because I know that it can be done if we do it from the beginning. So you don't have that gray areas of lack of trust and everything. So leadership, it's I can talk about the whole day, but that's one example for that. Leadership is the key. If you, I know that you might ask this question: what if you don't have that leadership? Forget lead. You can't do that.
Very good point. Very good point. I mean, it's a kind of leadership that you need with the right attitude, and who will drive all that, right? Siddharth, you mentioned about the word trust. I have seen on production floors when the inventory flows from one place to the other, work in progress flows, people double check just in case something happens, right? So how do you build this trust in a practical level?
First of all, the manufacturing process itself demands the inventory to be moved, or WIP to be moved to one location to another location. But the question is, do you need it to have it in 2 different places? So one of the NOS principles says that physically link at least 3 processes together to qualify certified as a lean line. So it's kind of just a measurement, not 3. But how many? There are factories you have sewing. I'm talking about the apparel, taking apparel example because I'm from apparel. So you have the sewing, and after that you have a finishing department separately, which has iron, another department for packing, another probably for checking. So you have all these different departments where people need to take one place to another place. So the accuracy, since the final person on the chain becomes the responsible person for the delivery, if you don't check it everywhere, let's say the order is 1,000, you will end up with 900 pieces short shipping, and you get thrashed. The person who's handling the delivery will get thrashed. This is the normal thing, happens everywhere. But why do you have it separately? So this is one of the things that we did in the early 2005, 6, 7, that those years. We had separate packing section, iron section. Everything was bought in together. You don't need to count. You stitch, you iron, you pack, you put into the box, you send to the warehouse. Just the carton goes to the warehouse. Checking the carton doesn't need like a lot of people to count or anything. Actually, you need some people to count because of the reports that you need to make. For shipments, you need to make reports. For those things, yeah, it can be automated to a certain, like scanning, those things can be bought on. But this is mainly because of how the process is designed. If you design it in a way that you need to transport to another, from one place to another place unnecessarily, you are going to have people to cross-check, and you are going to build in mistrust throughout the process.
Super. Thank you, Vignesh. Thank you, Siddhartha. So, Rowena, we are all technology people, right? So, three of us happen to be the case. But when we go into the industry, the things go beyond technology and beyond what the machines and processors can do. So, how did you tackle the challenges that are coming with human behaviors and the way people think and behave when you are implementing Lean?
Yeah, so I want to also tell you that what Siddharth said about leadership. So number one, your leadership team should be onboarded, because if not, then no one will listen to you, no matter how great your idea is. But if the leadership are not promoting, then people will not tend to listen. So it's really hard. People are people. They are complex. So we cannot really predict people. But what we wanted to make predictable, or what we want to become predictable, is our process. So if we have designed our process with little intervention of people's decision. You make it really something that they will just execute without thinking. It's easier for them to pick and place. Then it's something that would really help you manage the process. But when it comes to people, I would say that giving them enough motivation, the reason why we're doing this, all this what do you call this? All this what's in it for me? Why do I need to cooperate? Why would I have to do the lean project? That's very important to them, the why. So that's where leaders should really have to take time to explain to people and really motivate them that if we are going to be successful in this lean project, we will be able to save money for the company, and definitely our business will be sustainable, and then we have a brighter future, right? So whatever good that we do for the company will also comes back to us in a form of probably that's why also we encourage that in an organization you also have to establish a rewards and recognition system, because people love sometimes it's not about just the money, they also wanted to be recognized. So if you have that in place, so definitely people will get involved.
Wonderful, thank you. So now the concept of what's in it for me, right? So it's a very important thing apparently, because people are individuals, and individuals are driven by their needs, right? So that's a good point that you brought up. So now imagine like you somehow manage through all these resistances and challenges, then you implement Lean. in a lot of workplaces, I have seen people call it like we have a lean project going on. There is a lean implementation project going on. So now what happens when the project is over?
Come again, if the project is difficult or?
I mean, we say that we have a lean implementation project going on at our workplace. And this project comes to an end at one point. And when the project is over, how will the business keep going with lean? Right? So, Rowena, if you don't mind, until your microphone is probably giving a little noise, right? So, Siddhartha, do you mind responding?
Yeah, sure. Good question. So we have gone through this a lot in our career. There are productive times and there are a lot of unproductive times. When somebody says the lean project is going on, that itself sounds little bad for me, because it's like it doesn't have a start and an end. If you have that, if you have a project timeline to implement lean, that means something is wrong, or maybe we are faking something. Personally, the organizational environment sometimes makes you being part of it. And personally, all these years in my career was not really successful implementing lean or doing lean. There are a lot of failures. So what I want to do is to move out of the failure and try to make it right next time. So it doesn't end actually. That lean itself says it's continuous improvement. So you have lean has given some tools to check your progress. So those are permanent measures like SQDCM, the lean matrix, or the even through a value stream mapping, even through a process mapping. What you do is compare last 3 months to now where we have gone ahead. So this doesn't end. The value stream update and that process goes on years and years. So if we understand the basics right, and there won't be any project teams actually. The managers will be running the show alongside their job. So, but it's not human nature that everybody don't have the exposure. People have the fear of their territories. This is human nature. So there are some unclear maybe the structures. So you report to one person, and the lean team is an independent team that they ask you to do something. But your immediate superior doesn't have anything to do with it. This creates confusion among people. Transparency. So everything contributes to this factor. So as long as the leadership, it doesn't go as a project. As long as the leaders drive it, it doesn't end. There will be always something that you can improve every time you look at the process.
Super. Thank you, Siddhartha. So Rowena, I believe like now your sounds are okay. So the question was, we implemented lean and it went on as a project. It's over, but how are you going to sustain? Like how will you remain to be a lean enterprise, if I may use the word?
Yeah, actually the question there is how do you sustain the project? So when you complete a project, the most important or the next part is how to institutionalize it. Because your improvement, because you have this as, let's say, 3 to 6 months project and it was successful, you have made the improvement, but it's not enough that you improve only a certain area. You have to expand it to the rest of the processes or for the whole organization. So how to make sure that it's going to happen? So you have to document it, you have to put it in your control plan or in your policy. There should be some revision of procedures, so that you have to make sure that whatever changes or improvement that you've done should be written in your manuals, or it is documented. So the next person coming in, that will be the next baseline. So that's where Siddharth said that lean improvement is a continual process. It's never ending. So once you have improved your process, then today this is the best process, but tomorrow it can be the worst process. So you have to understand, or you have to put in place the continual improvement. So lean is just a tool, but your drive to improve should never stop from one project.
Yes, thank you very much. So it's all about continuous improvement, right? So that's a great one. Another thing, I think, Rowena, you are familiar with the automobile industries and all this. Like, people have thinking that lean comes from manufacturing industry. It's called Toyota Production Systems as well. So can it be implemented only at well-established market leader kind of businesses? How about like smaller businesses, upcoming startups? How can they absorb lean?
Well, no, actually, lean is not limited to big companies, established companies. So it can be used. All the lean tools can be used, whether from what industry or what size of a business you have. What's important is you have to educate your people in what is lean, what are the tools that they can use. Because, like, for example, a simple value stream mapping. So if your people are aware or know how to use the value stream mapping, this is very helpful in understanding what is your current process lead time, and where are the ways in terms of waiting, transport. So, and then the management will have a more, visibility of what's really happening. So normally, people on the shop floor are the ones really doing it. So when you talk to the management, sometimes they could not understand it. So when you present it using a value stream map, they can easily relate to your problem, and they can easily decide not to do this process is not value adding, or this is not the one that the customer needs, so we can go away with it. So yeah, the key is not about how big or small the company is. It's more of you as the leader believing in the continual improvement and equipping your people to make sure that they are capable of doing or using the tools of lean.
Thank you, Rowena. Yes, so according to that, lean is not only for well-established large businesses, but also for any up-and-coming startup or scale-up kind of business. I think, Siddhartha, now you are actually in that reality, given that you are going to set up a new apparel factory. Probably there are a lot of things getting started from zero. Given this context, we know that a lot of apparel industry companies are implementing 5S, and the people wonder, okay, so now we do 5S and then we are talking about lean. Are they going together? Are they completely different, separate things, or should it be implemented sequentially?
I think it cannot be compared directly, apple to apple. You cannot compare these two concepts. In fact, lean is based on 5S as well. Lean goes beyond 5S, where it focuses on the improvement of productivity with some certain tools. None of these are as the previous question you asked, Toyota may be the organization which regulated the knowledge that people had, but I'm sure this is around for centuries with people. Even even the small things that we do at home, we can do it in a way that it doesn't make any sense. So we can, for an example, this is a kind of a lazy example. Having I'm living alone. Why I need to have the TV in a hall? I have it in front of my bed, which makes sense for me. So 5S, without doing the basics of 5S, if you try to do lean, that doesn't make sense, because that's an integral part of lean. So I would say you cannot compare apple to apple. Lean is much of a different subject, but which includes 5S as well.
So I can say 5S is setting a very good foundation for a successful lean initiative. Am I right?
Definitely. If you don't have 5S, we cannot think about doing the other advanced tools, implementing things, because whatever the tool it has, it defines things. Even the lean rules defines the way that a process should be done. So for that, you need to have the right things in right place, and the basic 5S principles embedded into the system. Otherwise, it's a even the lean is going to be a failure. So you asked earlier why lean would fail. Maybe not having the 5S proper 5S foundations can be another reason.
Very good. Thank you very much. So Rowena, now if we strictly look at service industry, which is not connected with any manufacturing activity, how can we drive up productivity in a purely service environment?
Okay, so I would say that in a transactional world, let's say in a supply chain process. So in a service industry, very critical, one of the critical processes is the supply chain also. From the purchase request, from the placing the order, purchase order, from the delivery end to the payment. So if you have to really understand your organization, how these processes are divided among the departments. Sometimes the supply chain are, if you do the process map, sometimes there are 3 subdivision within that processes. So the handoff, you have to see whether the handoff is causing delays, or there is no defined lead time for each area, so they don't really care whether it's taking a long time for them to process. So that's one area where you can really implement lean. So you do the process mapping, and then you measure the lead time, you set the standard, and then check whether what's the historical event are doing. So see if your process is capable of doing the desired target, if you have it. And then if not, then that's where you really have to break down or deep dive the process and understand where the bottleneck, and make sure that you do some intervention. If the bottleneck is the decision maker or the actual person's doing the task, you can actually implement some RPA. If it's more of a routine task, there's a robotic process automation. There's a lot of software available in the market if that would help you to expedite the processing. So that's one in a supply chain. So then there's another area wherein you can apply also lean. Let's say you're doing a customer service call. You receive calls, or like a contact center. So the handling time is very important. So it would, well, the handling time normally in a call center, it should be at least few minutes or less than 3 minutes, something like that. If your target is less than 2 minutes, so you have to review how your people or your call center agent is doing it, whether is doing it spontaneously or there's a script or the skill or what. So whatever you think is holding that person to achieve the target of 2 minutes handling time, then you have to address it, because that's where the productivity is. The more calls that this person can take in a day, the better your productivity, with making sure that without sacrificing the quality of the call, because sometimes speed does not equate to productivity, because if you're having this 100 calls a day but your customers are not happy, then it's not also going to be good for the company. So those are the areas. And of course, there's many in HR. You can actually implement, like for example, if you have this disciplinary action issue once, if in a transactional world, in a call center, contact center, it's very important that people are really abiding the discipline of the organization, the ethics. So how does your employee relations manager would respond immediately to the need of the business when it comes to imposing the standard or the ethics of the company? And how are you making sure that you're tracking all those people that are repetitively doing those offenses? So what is your way of doing that, so that you can also apply lean? So yeah.
Commonly used buzzwords these days is COVID-19. Probably in the recent history, that's the one thing that united the world, the fight against COVID-19. And the circumstances that came up with this pandemic was that it's very difficult to plan long term. You have to, you never expect this kind of thing happens, and then you will have to respond effectively. So Siddharth, lean implementations take 2 years, 3 years plus. But when the business world and external world is changing so fast, how will you ensure that your lean initiative remains relevant and sustained throughout all this?
Right. In fact, rather than we try to make sure it's relevant, it has become essential at the moment. It has become relevant at the moment in some of the places that I see. So the group that I work for has a couple of plants running at the moment, and during this, the problem started during end of March. Factory started closing, and it was closed for a while and again restarted. And now we have the problem of these companies, mind you, didn't have any lean practices or I mean lean projects going on in the name of lean, but there were some people working on making things, regulating things, like making SOPs on how the things should be working, right there. So now we have already invested in the new project. The building is done. So the biggest cost of a business is the land and the building. Especially here in Bangladesh, due to the demand, it's very high. So that the biggest, now you can't stop the project. You have to go on with it. On the other hand, they had a lot of people, unnecessary people, unnecessary amount of people in their operations. They knew it, but they kept it because, like, ethically, there are ethical limits. You cannot like throw a person just like that. So it happened to be the right, state for us. So a process improvement team started working on these plans. The SOPs were made, and they are finding out that we have this amount of people. Then what we are going to do is to transfer these people to the new project that I'm working on right now. So this is a special case. So I took that example. If you take general terms, again, this period you need to you cannot compromise the quality that you deliver to the customer. You might have seen that famous graph where the profit shrinks with the time, where the amount customer pays comes down and our costs increase. So gradually, what happens? The profit gets minimum. So to survive in the business, Customers are also might compensate this time, but we cannot depend on that. We have to obviously cut down our costs. So no better tool than lean at this moment. You will have a problem when you start to see the waste in your process. The waste is in form of people as well. So that's where we start to face the challenges. So you cannot like ask a person to go home overnight. We were being lucky to have a new project, so we can redeploy. But in general terms, this is the right period to have the lean tools really understand. Not okay. One thing that I want to tell is, like, if you try to go and implement tools, you will end up doing probably unethical things. Tool comes last. You need to understand the principle, the focus on people, and also the principles that in general, what are the principles on lean, so you don't end up taking bad decisions. So if tools comes last, those tools are very powerful in terms in this kind of a period. Sam can't hear you, Sam.
Sorry. Yeah, the beautiful concept. You have to put people ahead of the tools. I have seen a lot of lean practitioners getting carried away with the names of tools, especially fancy sounding Japanese names, right? Exactly. So we should avoid that. Instead of that, we should put people first. And Rowena, how can we build agility and resilience into our lean initiatives?
Okay, so basically you have to make sure it is aligned to your the direction of the company. So in every company, normally they have set their annual targets. So it should be aligned to that, because if you're trying to do, we can only do so much. So you have to prioritize whatever the company direction, where the company direction is. Because if you are going to just deploy lean to whatever initiative that people have in mind, then everybody will end up doing a project because they feel that they need it, or they feel that they have to do it, but well, actually it's not the priority of the moment. Because if you are just going to deploy a lean project without aligning it to the priority of the company, then definitely you will have a diffuse resources. Everyone will not focus to the same goal. Then it will be very hard. There's sometime you will have to pull someone to join your activity, or someone to attend your meeting, or someone to attend your discussion, but actually everybody is very busy because there is no focus. So that's something that will really not help you in terms of progressing your lean project. So the basic thing is you have to I would say it's a top-down approach, wherein the organization must decide first, okay, our problem right now probably is something related to the profit, and what are the drivers of our profit right now. So this is the focus. So for this year, we can do this first, and then next year we can focus to a different thing. So the key is always alignment. So if your project or your lean initiative is not aligned to the business goal, then that's not going to take you any further, because eventually it will die down, because there's no much, or there's no enough support that will implement whatever improvement that you wanted to put in place.
Yeah. Thank you, Rowena. Yeah, very good one. We have a question from Mr. Hamid, who is from Pakistan. Lean benefits the organizations by reducing cost, but how does it benefit an employee? Rowena first. Do you like to?
Okay, so well, of course there's a where you call in give and take relationship in everything, right? So for me, in my experience, an organization should also come up really with a very good rewards and recognition system tied into their lean program. Because of course, sometimes as an individual, we really don't know the difference of having this completing a successful Lean Six Sigma project if it does not translate into our own language. So sometimes, as an individual, we wanted to be recognized, and then we wanted, if the company is generous enough, sometimes they would give this some monetary incentives. But sometimes, merely recognizing the person, having this conference or this mini awarding ceremony is already a big motivation for the people to really engage into this kind of organization. And that's where also the clarity of where the company right now and where are we going is also important, so that people would understand why they need to to engage or to come up with a lean project.
Thank you, Rowena. So we have another question from Tashma, who is a manager in a company in Sri Lanka. I plan to direct this towards Siddharth. According to her, we are overwhelmed by the amount of resources available about lean and the concepts that are being shared with us by so many professionals. I want to know, where should I begin?
Okay, I think we are running out of time, so I'll tell, but I want to mention something on that earlier question as well. Yes, lean reduces cost, but that's not the only one thing. You have three people, you have the final customers, you have the manufacturers, the shareholders, and you have the people, employees that you work for. All three must be taken care of. That if it's not, then we have a problem. That's why lean itself has given a matrix called SQDCM. You have to think about safety, quality, delivery, cost, and moral of the people. So that question says lean helps to reduce cost. What about the employee? That means out of SQDCM, somebody only has the C part, the cost. You need to have the safety, you need to have the moral of the people, everything needs to be included. There are tools. So that's why it's important to understand the base principles of lean and then go into the tools. Okay. Now coming back to the subject, where do I start? This is actually where I wanted to finish what I'm saying. Sam, are there, Sam, right? Right. Stick to the basics.
Yes.
Like I said in the beginning, there is no point in trying to learn all the material out there. I never did that. I went through some important things, and what happened over the period of time with practice, it has become part of my life, not in my work, in my personal life as well. Whenever I see, see things, the lean has given a rationale in my thinking. So stick to the basic, understand what are the 4 rules basically, and understand how the 5 principles helps you to approach lean. This is what I would say. Understand the 4 rules and the 5 principles. What it will do, it will make you understand things in a rational way. Then you will start to think how to solve this. Then the tools will start to help you. So we don't need to overcomplicate things. We don't need to study, do thesis on this. These 2 things I think would be the best place to start with. And also, remember, it's not process improvement. We need to take care of the people. So the people pillar is something important, and also the leadership that we give. We need to make people feel part of it, trust each other, trust us. There should not be any lack of transparency. then we are heading towards at least a certain percentage of success. So that's the way I would approach it.
Thank you, Siddhartha. And actually, I think the summarization that I was about to make, Siddhartha already made it. So getting lean practically going is all about ensuring your leadership is committed, top-down vision, which is institutionalized, just like Rowena said, and also, of course, putting people ahead of the tools and ensuring that you start with the principles and fundamentals so that you can sustain the concept. So I thank both of you once again, Rowena and Siddhartha. It had been a very valuable 1 hour that I spent. I believe that all of our audience members felt the same way. Thank you very much, our kind audience, for joining us, and we believe that it added some value to you. Also, I want to thank our team who is behind organizing all this at Luminary, and I wish you all a nice evening. Look forward to see you once again.
It's a privilege to be part of this, Sam. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rowena. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Right. Thanks, Sam, for joining. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. Thank you, Siddharth. Thank you, Rowena, for the wonderful knowledge share that kept us in rapt attention. As we heard rightly, if you always do what you always did, you'll always get what you always got. So stop watering your weeds. Improvement usually means doing something that we've never done before. And continuous improvement is the indispensable ingredient to competitiveness. Well, a big thank you to H1, our technology partners, for powering this series, and who was with us and their team behind the scenes. Next week, join us as we move ahead with Revive and Grow segment. We'll be looking at prioritizing work and managing your day. Keep watching our social media space for more details. Coming up in the next hour is This, That, and the Other with Varun. Click and stay glued as we discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly of the controversial topic. What does it take to get promoted, honestly? Enjoy the rest of the day. Stay safe, stay productive. Thank you.